Our purpose is to build a holistic voice that creates a community of like-minded, healthy people for a healthier planet. Our goal is to unify the community, nourishing the growth in mind, body, spirit, awareness, and wellness. We want to engage our community and visitors so they have access to powerful momentum of the holistic presence in our community. We do this by creating awareness through interviews, providing education and awareness of cutting-edge modalities. We also provide access for consumers to quality natural health and wellness professional and practitioners and like-minded business that support this community. Thank you for listening with us on Healthy Planet One. Stay with us for the next interview with our next holistic guest.
Welcome, everyone. This month's focus is on letting the light in, and this topic is diverse. We have invited 4 guests to share their insight and contributions from their various fields. So we invite you to listen in each week to these in-depth conversations, and we're sure they're going to make a big difference in your life. We're very excited to have our guest this week, who is Jill Rathburn. She is a lifelong learner, entrepreneur with energy that goes beyond her just do it attitude I love about her. So Jill is a certified professional coach. She comes from a long background, though, in pediatric oncology nursing. She went on to excel in pharmaceutical sales. She even went on to own a very successful retail boutique in Park City, Utah. And now she's back as the humble warrior, and she is helping other women recover from alcohol addiction and other use disorders. So Jill, welcome today to our show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, well, could you just start by telling, you have such a diverse background and you have so much energy to transform. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your own experience with alcohol use?
Sure. As you described, I do have a few diverse career background. I like to reinvent myself. So I was an oncology nurse, and then I actually owned a business with my husband for 17 years, a medical communications agency. Always been a high achiever, very driven. I love working. I have a very high bar for myself, and did it happily. I also have strong values with family, so I always envisioned myself, married and with children, and that's exactly what happened. So even while I was working, really 24/7, 365, I managed to have 3 amazing boys. So pretty much in my 30s, I was either pregnant or breastfeeding. So in relationship to all of this with alcohol, while I did partake in alcohol, it really wasn't front and center, mainly because I was so busy working and so busy with my family. But towards the end of my 30s, and after my last pregnancy, I actually had 3 C-sections, and I really hit me hard. In retrospect and in reflection, I believe I had postpartum depression. But I had a specific issue, and that was, I was told I was done having children. I had always planned to have 4, and I had planned to have a girl, and I had 3, and I had all boys, and I felt like I had no business being even a littlest bit upset about this, because, 3 amazing children is an incredible gift beyond belief, indescribable. And it sounded selfish to say, oh, but I want another and I want a girl. So I started drinking, to cope with this. And, that was the very, very beginning, of my alcohol use. And, also we were in the process of selling our business that we had for 17 years. And, I had envisioned how the sale, should go, and had watched other people sell their businesses, and ours really some of the negotiations were really challenging, and it just it didn't meet my expectations. And so I ultimately was discouraged and crazy, felt like a failure about how this all happened, which is insane. But again, drinking was my coping strategy. And I can, again, also in reflection, I realized that is when I actually was on the spectrum of alcohol use disorder, because there's varying severities, which we'll talk about.
Okay. So when did you realize that this was an issue? So we already know that you're a high achiever, and a lot of high achievers. I consider myself to be having some of those, intense kind of high achieving things for myself. So then the alcohol was allowing you to deliver what it needed to help your brain deal with whatever was going on. And that's pretty normal. But when did you realize that it was starting to become a problem?
Yes. So where things began to become dark, because up until, generally speaking, I would say my life was full of a lot of ups, certainly some downs, but I had a very robust life and was coping generally well. When we made the decision to move to Park City, Utah, we felt it would be a better environment to raise our children in the outdoors, where there's such an emphasis, right, on the outdoors.
Right. Yeah, I've been there. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it was an excellent idea for my husband and my 3 boys. But for me, leaving my home that we built, it was a beautiful big home and a big lot. And we had put our heart and soul into it. And I never thought we would leave it. And leaving the home, my safe space, and moving, and just, it never really clicked with me in Park City, and it was very isolating. And I just started drinking daily at this point. And it wasn't even, a specific issue, it was more just a general everyday drinking. It became, brushing, something as so routine as brushing your teeth. And so the darkness, while it wasn't a black darkness, it was just starting to slowly erode at my mind, body, and spirit, because alcohol use disorder is a progressive disease. So where it really turned, though, is when I went through menopause, my body changed, and I just couldn't handle. My body couldn't handle the amount of alcohol I was putting into it, and so blackouts began. Alcohol became my primary importance over pretty much everything else. And where my values had always been family, health, career, now all of a sudden alcohol was prominent. And then the rest was if there was even time and if I was even present. Wow. And it almost pains me to speak of this, because I feel like this is a different person than who I was and definitely who I have become now.
Yeah, well, this is very raw and it's very courageous for you to share in this way. And I know that many of our listeners are going to relate to this. I mean, living over in Fort Lauderdale, by the way, so they call it Fort Lickerdale, but honestly, there's so many things to do. And even when I was involved in so many events and so many networking things, every event had wine, beer, so you could literally drink every day. And then I remember my natural doctor telling me, Kimberly, your body's not me. You can't do this, because I only had a little, but still it was starting to bother me. So sometimes it can just lead up, because it's social drinking, in a way too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I would drink before we would head to the social event, because I knew there wouldn't be enough.
Right.
So this is just a sign of when you are having problems, when you start hiding, you start drinking before the event, you start hiding your alcohol, and you lie about how much you've had. Right. And it's a disease that completely takes over your mind, body, spirit. You cannot continue lying like that without significant disharmony in the body. So, yes.
But look at so your courage, because I know people that are going through this and they're not at the strength point that you are. So how did this turn? Because you do have a strong family life. How did it turn?
Right.
How did the light come in? That's the
yes.
How did the light
into your life.
Oh, and boy, did it ever. So yes. So finally, my husband, basically, gave me an ultimatum. There's really no other way of saying it. He had obviously asked me numerous times, and there was even a family intervention several years before that. But he really came to me and said he could no longer watch this and be part of it. And that it wasn't healthy for, at this point, my one child who was still at home touring out of the house. And I realized, it just hit me that this was my rock bottom. My rock bottom was realizing that I was about ready to lose my family, which in a present normal state of mind would, be absolutely devastating. Yet daily I was allowing this erosion to occur. So I didn't need a DUI. I didn't need to fall down the steps and break my neck. I didn't need to lose my job, and thankfully I did not lose my family. So I went into a 30-day inpatient rehab program, and I had an excellent counselor. It was a solid program. An inpatient is great to remove you from your life and wake you up. That's what it's great for. What it's is not as good for, just because it's inpatient, is that it's not good for teaching you how to live a sober life. You can only do that outpatient. So yes, that's how I entered in recovery. And that was really the beginning, of an extraordinary period of growth, and empowerment and transformation for me.
Mm-hmm. So this must have to do with something about the overview of why you actually started to start your own coaching business under Humble Warrior, right?
Exactly. So basically, so once I got out of inpatient, it was full of some ups and downs, some light and dark. Certainly the door was cracked, the light was coming in. But I was white knuckling it. I was going on, willpower, and you can't, transform on willpower. It can be handy, but ultimately it needs to come from the heart, not the mind. You need to feel it. Right. And so when I found my way to a coaching program that took me to India, and I really had an incredible transformation, really continued transformation. I realized that I wanted to start a coaching business, because really when you find yourself on the other side of addiction, like, in other words, there's really two mountains. You put down the alcohol, and that's the getting sober mountain. And that is an extraordinary feat. That was me getting into inpatient. But really there's another mountain, and that's the mountain of transformation. And that is when you really have an opportunity to go deep and have explosive personal growth, where the mental and emotional, really physical healing, because you cannot underestimate the years of disruption in your body, the disruption in your body and our health and how it suffered. And so there's so many layers of healing, and once one section, once you get clear, then there's an opportunity for new understandings. It's like, as they say, peeling the onion. Well, it's endless, and that's the joy, really. Yeah. So I just realized that.
Jill, you're doing fantastic. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well,
yeah. So this raw material is going to help a lot of people, because I know several people that are not even in between the mountains yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine's husband needs to get in between the mountains, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
So, why we're getting her back on, but it is so true that, there really are two major initiatives to moving from darkness to light. First is like stepping in, and that is like putting down the drink. And there's so many initiatives and programs about that. And then then
your husband must have not been a drinker. I mean, because people can't drink around you if you're trying to heal.
Well, that's interesting you say that. My husband is what I would call, well, to say normal drinker in America doesn't,
Well, then maybe he's like